And we're back again. This is the Horror Guys.
Horror Guys.
Episode number 34, where we discuss horror movies, occasional snacks, all kinds of horror stuff. And just a warning up front that we may do some spoilers if you haven't seen these movies and you really want to go into them blind. But here we go.
Yeah.
That's a lot of movies. What did we watch this week?
Well, this week we watched the Universal Studios movie, The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942. Then we move up to our Hammer horror classic, The Curse of Frankenstein from 1957.
In color.
Two competing Frankensteins.
Yes.
Frankenstein versus Frankenstein, only not really.
Yeah.
The new movie, A Hole in the Ground from 2019. And back when we were doing news, we talked about A Hole in the Ground was coming, and it's here.
It came. We saw.
Our international feature is a French film called Climax from 2018, also fairly recent, and a bonus review of the not quite released yet movie, Between the Darkness, also called Come Said the Night, which will be releasing this upcoming Tuesday, August 20th, on all the major streaming networks.
Did you catch that? We got to see a movie before any of you. Yeah. It was pretty good, too.
It was. It was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of movie talk. So
here we go.
But before the movies, you hungry? Starting last week, we're going to start talking about our weekly snacks.
This week's episode brought to you by Pop Rocks. Did you know that they still make Pop Rocks?
Pop Rocks?
Yeah, this is a 30th anniversary packaging where they've gone retro. In case you don't know what Pop Rocks are, they're these little candy nuggets. They're just basically sugar and carbon dioxide.
It's powder.
They take the like a fizzy soda, but it's solidified and Yep. You can probably hear that. Yeah. And if you bite them, they pop more. No, they don't hurt, but it's a weird sensation.
There's that kid who drank the soda and blew his stomach out.
I heard
that's an established fact, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My friend's cousin's friend, that happened to him.
Yeah.
In the 80s. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
30th anniversary of Pop Rocks, and that story still goes strong.
So anyway, they're basically flavored sugar. They're tasty. And
they're loud.
And fun to eat.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're not supposed to chew them because they'll blow your teeth out.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably more urban legends with this candy than anything I can think of.
But they've been around for a while, so the urban legends are...
30th anniversary, so yeah, definitely.
It's bound to have happened to somebody. Yeah.
Probably has.
Yeah. So anyway, I think I should continue to eat these the whole
Oh, yeah, because we don't have enough static and noise as it goes already. Well, this week we started out with The Ghost of Frankenstein by Universal in 1942. Directed by Earl Kenton. Haven't seen anything by him before.
Mm-mm.
Written by Scott Darling and Eric Taylor. Stars Cedric Hardwicke, Lon Chaney Jr., and Ralph Bellamy.
Yeah, it's
1 hour, 7 minutes.
It's different Frankenstein monster this time.
No Karloff.
No Karloff this time.
But they got Lon Chaney Jr., a different horror icon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well he was known at this point. He was the star of The Wolfman.
He was pretty well known.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man of 500 Faces.
250. They get lower every generation. Before we get into it, thumbs up, thumbs down. Where does this rank on the scale?
Yeah. Middle of the road. 5, 6. This is probably a 6.
This is not the best Frankenstein movie.
Mm-mm.
This is not the second best Frankenstein movie.
Well, part of it was...
I won't say it's the worst, but it's down the list of ways.
Yeah. The makeup, Boris Karloff was so expressive, Lon Chaney Jr. looks like he's wearing a rubber mask. Very unexpressive, very rubbery looking face.
Very stiff.
And very stiff.
Very
motions, but
Herman Munster-ish more than Frankenstein.
Yeah, a little more so. Yeah. I was much less impressed with him as the monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the look and his actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it starts out with there's a town meeting where the mayor recaps what happened in The Son of Frankenstein. Previous movie was The Son of Frankenstein. That was the one where the monster was dug up, basically. They recharged him, and in the end, they buried him in the sulfur pit at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And dead forever, of
Never
course.
see him again.
No.
Until the next movie.
Igor, however, has been seen in the woods playing his horn, trying to lure the monster back to him. But the monster's dead, so that's not going to happen.
Right, yeah.
The people want the castle destroyed. They think it's cursed.
They blame all their troubles on the Castle Frankenstein and the Curse of Frankenstein that's still lingering, and that's why our crops don't grow and the animals die and all these terrible things happen and the dogs and cats are sleeping together and
It's the castle's fault.
It's all the Frankenstein's fault. So,
they have had some problems from that castle.
So they're going to blow it to the ground and level it and be done once and for all.
So the villagers come to the castle with explosives.
Igor doesn't like that.
They see Igor up there, and he starts throwing rocks at them. These are big castle-sized rocks.
Yeah.
They blow open the doors of the castle and storm in while Igor goes down into the dungeon to make his escape. Igor finally finds his friend. The monster has been unearthed in the explosion.
Yeah, ironically, the villagers, in their attempt to destroy the castle, have freed the monster.
He had been buried in the sulfur pits at the end of the previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
The two make their way out through the cemetery as the rest of the castle falls down.
The villagers don't notice. They're sneaking out while they're occupied destroying the castle. The
evil pair decide to leave the country for a better place.
And this is the point of the movie I think that they really could have expanded on, or maybe even made a movie, the Madcap Adventures of this road trip.
Buddy movie.
Buddy movie, yeah, as they go,
Frankenstein and Igor do Europe.
Mm-hmm, on a road trip.
Family vacation.
Uh-huh. But they don't much. It's kind of a, they leave
they're here,
and they arrive. There. Yeah.
On the trip, Frankenstein is struck by lightning and it rejuvenates him. They then decide to go see Ludwig, Dr. Frankenstein's other son. So I don't know why they called it the Ghost of Frankenstein. There is a ghost.
Yeah.
They should have called it the other son of Frankenstein.
The other son of Frankenstein, yeah.
And then the next movie would be the other son.
Yeah, they could really get carried away.
Frankenstein's cousin's brother's ugly dog.
Right, yeah.
Actually, there was a Dracula's dog movie.
Dracula's dog?
It wasn't called Dracula's dog, but it was The Hound of Dracula.
Wow. No,
I can't
not familiar with that one.
I can't think of the Yogon or something like that. It was a Hammer movie.
Okay.
I believe Christopher Lee was in it too.
Of course.
Briefly. Meanwhile, Ludwig is working on brain transplants in the hospital. Can you imagine what a Frankenstein family reunion must be like?
Yeah.
I'm a psychiatrist. I'm doing brain transplants. I've brought the dead back to life. All trying to one-up each other.
Yeah.
Igor and Frank arrive in town and head straight for the hospital. Frankenstein monster grabs the nearest little girl and climbs up a building. The little girl is fine, but the police then grab the monster.
Yeah, they're freaking out, understandably. Yeah.
Igor goes to see Dr. Ludwig Frankenstein. He wants the doctor to fix the creature. Igor blackmails the doctor into helping him. I don't want to help with this monster. It's terrible. You will.
Yeah.
And of course, Igor is Bela Lugosi, so he's got that accent.
Yeah.
You will.
Mm-hmm.
After Igor leaves, the doctor opens a secret compartment where his father's and brother's journals are stored. Turns out he's way more interested in helping out than he was letting on.
Yeah, he knows all about this line of work.
He's just looking for the excuse.
Mm-hmm.
The monster goes on trial in town, but he doesn't speak. Somehow he's forgotten how to speak again.
Yeah.
Bride of the Frankenstein, he was doing pretty good talking.
And he doesn't have much facial expression or anything at all. It's just kind of...
I mean, you can see Lon Chaney Jr.'s face in there, so it wasn't a rubber mask, but no expressions, really.
Yeah, just a couple times of hint of a kind of an evil-looking smile.
Yeah.
But...
not much acting going on there.
Yeah.
The judge and lawyers think the monster is an insane man, and the local psychiatrist, Dr. Frankenstein, might be able to help. Frankenstein says he's never seen the monster before in his life, and the monster then gets mad and goes berserk, until he hears Igor playing his horn.
Mm-hmm.
Igor puts him in the back of a wagon and speeds away. So how about those courtroom bailiffs? Is that the best security you've ever seen in a courtroom?
That was great.
It's like he breaks one chain loose and everybody runs.
Including the
bailiffs. They go out and hop in a wagon and leave town and they're like, yep, they escaped.
Yeah, they got away. Look at that.
Don't go after them or nothing.
Yeah.
Elsa, Ludwig's daughter, snoops in her father's study and reads the Frankenstein journals.
So this is granddaughter of Frankenstein.
The big
Yes.
Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family tree time.
Yeah. Yeah.
As she reads, we get a quick flashback to the first movie. This is actual footage of Cullen Clive bringing the monster to life.
Mm-hmm.
She looks up and sees Igor and the monster looking in the window.
Hi.
We're watching you.
Yeah.
They break in and kill Dr. Kettering.
Hmm.
And it's an asylum, basically. They have several
did we
doctors.
mention Dr. Kettering before now?
No.
Okay.
He's just another
Yeah.
one of the doctors
Another
there in the
doctor.
mental hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
They kill Dr. Kettering, and Frankenstein then floods the room with gas, knocking Igor out, and finally the monster falls down as well.
Mm-hmm. Takes him longer.
Secret gas.
Yeah.
Frankenstein straps the monster down to a table and gets Dr. Boehmer to help. He wants to dissect him piece by piece. But then he talks to the ghost of the original Dr. Frankenstein and learns that the problem originally was the defective brain that was used. Ludwig can transplant brains. Hey, that's mighty convenient.
Hey, I've got an idea. Let's give the monster a new brain.
Yeah, where'd we get a brain?
And
Dr. Kettering, he just died.
this is where the title of the movie comes from, the Ghost of
Ghost.
Frankenstein.
And
But
it's never explained where this ghost came from.
I don't think it was really a ghost. He did, suddenly the ghost of your father appears. You'd be kind of shocked, alarmed, scared, I think he was just talking to himself. I think it was like
Just a camera, a director's trick to make us
uh-huh.
visualize what he was thinking.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think it was just in his head.
Nobody else saw the ghost, and this is the ghost's
Yeah.
only opinion.
And the way he reacted to it.
Yeah.
It was just like you're
Oh,
having a
it's a ghost.
conversation with yourself, which is kind of what he was doing.
But the name of the movie is The
Is
Ghost of
Frankenstein.
This is like the
So they had
pivotal
to-
name, and it's
so they
just
had
not
to
that big of a
show-
deal.
Yeah, it really isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the very weak Ghost of Frankenstein.
Yeah, and you never see him again in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's just a plot device.
Yeah.
Not even really a necessary plot device. It's like, we got to have a ghost in this film somewhere.
Well, it was a way to get him to change his mind. And I think it was a way to,
Okay.
the demon and the angel sitting on his shoulder, kind of, it could have been like that. Like, no, dissect the creature. No, give it a new brain. No,
Let's see what it can really do.
Yeah.
Igor says his own body is pretty much ruined, so he volunteers to have his brain put in the monster's body. No, Ludwig wants to use the brain from Dr. Kettering. It's a good, healthy, beneficial brain.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
They hook up the electrodes and recharge the monster because he needs strengthening up before his big operation. Who knew he was rechargeable?
Mm-hmm. He is.
The monster also consents to the operation. Change brain. Except he doesn't say that.
He doesn't say that, but
it.
he
He
agrees.
nods.
Yeah.
Igor, I'm thinking he doesn't really understand what the brain does.
Probably not. No.
Yes, trade my brain for something else. Igor talks to Dr. Boehmer and tempts him with power. He still wants to be put in the monster's head.
Mm-hmm.
The police smell a rat, and they search the hospital. They find the secret lab. They go downstairs, but no one is there. The monster is out visiting the little girl downtown.
His obsession.
He's getting to be a little more of a creeper than a monster at this point.
A little bit, yeah.
Frankenstein's pedophile. Igor calls him away with his horn, but this time he takes the girl with him. Of course, he accidentally sets her house on fire on the way out as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He and Igor argue, and the monster squashes him behind a door. They're finally ready for the operation. Igor is convinced that this is what he wants to do, so Boehmer switches the brains without telling Ludwig.
And his body's even worse now that Frankenstein beat up on him.
Yeah, he's not gonna live.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's already dead at this point.
No, I think he's he's not dead. But
Dying.
Yeah, dying from his wounds, yeah. So.
2 weeks pass, and the villagers are still looking for the missing little girl. They decide Frankenstein must be involved, just like, the castle was killing the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So they storm the hospital. The police get there first, and Frankenstein explains what happened with the brain transplant. The monster now speaks with Igor's voice and accent. Now he sounds like Dracula.
Yeah.
He tells them all that he's Igor.
And I will rule the world and kill you all.
I have the super body. Can't be killed.
And the super brain. Except there's a complication.
The rabble outside find a battering ram somewhere and break in. Boehmer then turns on the gas and many villagers pass out. Suddenly, in the confusion, the Igor monster screams that he's gone blind. Frankenstein then explains that Dr. Kettering and the monster had the same blood type, but Igor's was different. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
The operation is not going to last. Igor then kills Bomer in a rage, but the lab starts to burn, killing everyone inside. A happy ending.
And
the monster's dead forever.
And we never see the monster again.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. And a happy ending for a romantic couple. The daughter and
the daughter and the
detective.
Yeah.
They have to throw that in.
Yeah, got it. Well, why? Why do we need a love interest in these two minor characters
Because it was the 40s and it was Universal, and they always
got to have a happy ending for somebody.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is the first of the series without Boris Karloff. The monster looks quite a bit, Lon Chaney Jr. looks quite a bit different in the role, younger and stronger, but also a lot less menacing. Bela Lugosi as Igor is as good as he was in the previous movie, and Dr. Frankenstein tries repeatedly to do the right thing here, and ends up being the only doctor to be killed in his own movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the others more or less got away at the end.
Yeah.
They died off screen later sometimes.
Yeah, not this one.
Lon Chaney Jr. was great in The Wolfman, but he was kind of wasted here, essentially making the monster into a caricature of his former self.
Yeah.
The monster may have made a star out of Karloff, but in this case, lightning didn't strike twice. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
I'd give it a 4 on the 10 scale.
Give it a 6.
Okay. Yeah.
5.5, 6.
Probably not. We haven't seen all the Frankensteins yet. I'm sure that there's worse to come. I would go so far as to say this is probably the worst one we've seen so far.
I agree.
Yeah.
Weakest. The weakest. Yeah.
And now we change the channel from the Universal channel to the Hammer channel. And we watched their Frankenstein movie. This is their first Frankenstein movie.
1957. It's in color, and it was the first color Frankenstein movie that anybody had made.
And Hammer was just really getting into horror. They'd done the 3 or 4, however many Quatermass movies you want to talk about. They did a black and white one with Peter Cushing called The Abominable Snowman, which we have not seen yet. This was their first color horror movie. This was their first big monster like Frankenstein to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you think overall? Did they make it? Okay.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
It was very different from the Colin Clive 1931 Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the story was kind of the same too.
Yeah.
In ways.
Mm-hmm.
You've read the book, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Neither one's really all that close.
No.
The two movies were closer together than the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your number rating on this? I'm going to go with a 7.
With this one? Yeah. Higher than the previous one. Yeah, I'd say a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As good as Universal's first Frankenstein movie?
Mm-hmm.
Not as influential, but definitely good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Curse of Frankenstein, The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957, directed by Terence Fisher, written by Jimmy Sangster, stars Peter Cushing, Hazel Court, Robert Urquhart, and Christopher Lee.
Mm-hmm.
1 hour, 22 minutes.
What a cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A priest rides up to the castle on the hill. He goes inside and a guard leads him to a cell. Inside the cell is Baron Frankenstein. He wants to tell his side of the story, and he knows that people listen to the priest. He had been a young medical student, probably 12 or 13, and he suddenly inherited his mother's fortune. He decided to use the family's money to continue his work. He hires a tutor, Paul. He grew to manhood with Paul by his side, and the two started working together on experiments involving life.
Paul becomes his Igor, basically. I mean, his sidekick.
He's a better dresser.
Yeah, yeah.
After many years, they have a breakthrough. They bring a dog back to life. Paul then wants to immediately submit a paper at the next month's conference, but Victor wants to go further. He wants to build a complete creature from parts and create life from nothing.
From scratch. Yeah. And this creation is a lot more chemical. There's still electricity involved, but there's a lot more chemicals.
Yeah.
Beakers that bloop.
Colored, blinky, or bubbly things.
Bleepers that bloop and, beakers that bubble and bloop. Yeah.
Bloop, bloop. He wants to build the perfect human. Paul tells him that would be wrong, as it goes against nature.
Mm-hmm.
There's always one. There's always one.
Yeah. What does he know?
They know of a man who was hanged for robbery last week, and the body is still hanging there. Last week?
Yeah.
Outdoors?
Yeah.
They liberate it that night. The birds have eaten half the head. Victor cuts off the head and throws it into a huge tub of acid so that in a few minutes there'll be no trace.
Yeah, and
You got this giant tub full of acid.
Well, every lab should.
Is that like Chekhov's tub? You know, we're going to be seeing it later.
You probably, yeah. Well, Paul is kind of grossed out with that. I liked how Frankenstein's just so casual.
This head is bad.
We'll just saw it off, and Paul looks like he's turning green and just about to barf. And,
It's a little over the top for Paul.
Yeah.
Victor goes out of town for a while, and while he's gone, his cousin Elizabeth arrives to stay. She's planning to live there. Victor arrives back, and he's got the hands of the world's greatest sculptor in his bag.
Yes. Yeah, he's started to collect parts, the perfect parts, the ideal, to make the ideal man.
The perfect man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paul has decided that they shouldn't continue with their experiments. He threatens to get Elizabeth to leave as well. Paul asks Elizabeth to leave for her own safety, but Elizabeth refuses. She intends to marry Victor. Meanwhile, Victor's upstairs getting busy with Justine the maid.
First cousins, I may know, but,
Well, it was a long time ago. That was allowed.
Yeah. What? The maid?
Besides, that's not going to be the worst thing Frankenstein does.
Yeah, true.
Yes, Victor's upstairs getting busy with the maid.
He's doing it with the maid while Elizabeth is oblivious, thinking, oh, he's mine.
Yeah.
No, Elizabeth. No, he's not. No.
Victor goes to the morgue and buys a pair of eyes. He calls
eyes.
in Paul to judge how well he's done. He admits that the creature he's made is ugly, but hey, he's not harming anybody.
Well, and he says that the magnificence of the brain is that really influences how a person looks, and basically thinks that once
an ugly mind makes an ugly person.
Yeah, and once he brings him to life, everything will even out.
You know what? You can be really smart and still have your eyeball hanging out and scars all over your face, and not necessarily be attractive.
Yeah.
He invites Professor Bernstein over for dinner. Elizabeth refers to him as the greatest brain in Europe. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a cautious little phrasing.
Kind of see where this is going.
Paul
arrives.
Still
using the brain. There's a problem. He's not dead yet.
Yeah, how
do we fix this problem?
Paul arrives, meets the professor, and suspects the worst, because he's not stupid.
Yeah.
Victor then pushes the old man over the railing, and he falls to his death. Lands right on his head.
Makes it sound like an accident. Yeah.
They bury him in the Frankenstein crypt, where Victor returns that evening to cut out the old man's brain. It's the least he could do.
Mm-hmm.
Paul comes in, and they fight. The brain is damaged in their struggle. Smashes it against the wall.
Paul's fault. Brain damage.
Victor implants the brain and gets everything set up. There's lots of colorful boiling beakers and humming electrical equipment that throws off static sparks.
With colorful beakers that bubble and bloop, Frankenstein's monster looks to be floating in soup. With a flash overhead, it's no longer dead. But anyway, yeah, it is. It's floating in a big tank.
You should do the whole movie that way.
In rhyme. Yeah.
Okay, so he has to go out and get Paul's help because the machine is too much for one person to handle.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the tank drains.
He leaves everything on.
The tank drains. Lightning strikes the machine, starting it up again with no one around. The creature starts breathing.
Just by accident, a lightning strike.
Paul
activates everything.
Paul finally agrees to help, and they head back to the lab. The creature is not only alive, but then it attacks Victor.
Surprise! Oh, mm-hmm.
The creature escapes during the night. The creature comes upon a blind man in the woods, and things go badly for the blind man.
Mm-hmm.
Much quicker scene than the Bride a few months ago.
And this is Christopher Lee as the monster.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of look. He's not as lurchy. Kind of one side of his face especially is very scarred up and damaged, and one eye is all white and blind, and it's a kind of.
He looks like a failed surgery, look. But yeah,
more like the Mummy, I think, than
less
than
supernatural, more surgical.
Yes, yeah,
more realistic, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, more realistically surgical of what this mishmash would look like.
I mean, if you put a bunch of dead body parts together, it wouldn't come out looking like Boris Karloff's monster.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, the man's head had to have looked like that before he died. Yeah. It was not assembled from pieces.
Yeah, and he's not greenish. He's
Christopher Lee. He's very white, very pale.
Yeah. Not healthy looking.
Victor and Paul then find the monster roaming in the woods, and Paul shoots its eye out, and it dies.
Yeah,
killed by a bullet.
End of the monster.
They bury it in the woods. Paul then says he's leaving. He's had enough of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Victor goes back to the lab, and he's got the creature there. He already dug it back up. And he promises he'll give it life again.
Mm-hmm.
It really is dead. Justine the maid is jealous of Elizabeth. Justine says she's pregnant with Victor's child. She then threatens to tell the authorities about his work.
Yeah, that doesn't work for somebody as crazy as Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night, she goes snooping in the lab, looking for some kind of proof to get Victor locked up.
Mm-hmm.
As she searches the lab, she finds the monster, now alive again. She tries to run, but Victor locks her in there with him, and she's killed.
Yeah, that's the thing about animating a dead. If it gets killed, you can bring it back to life again.
Round 2.
Yeah.
Elizabeth then invites Paul to the wedding. Paul doesn't show for the wedding, but he does come later that night after the celebrations are over. Paul, of course, thinks that the monster business is done, but he's in for a little bit of a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Victor gives the creature orders, and it barely obeys him. Paul then mocks its superior intellect.
Well, that was Paul's fault for, fighting and mashing the brain against the wall.
Maybe.
So, yeah. Maybe.
Victor's...
But it might have came out bad anyway. But
Well, Victor says the creature's stupidity is Paul's fault.
Yeah.
Victor vows to get another brain, and we're eyeing Paul at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Paul then runs off, and Victor goes in pursuit. Maybe he's thinking that too.
Come back.
Elizabeth goes upstairs to see what the commotion was about. The monster starts pulling at the chain and frees itself far too easily, just as Elizabeth opens the door.
Well, he did make the best prime parts, and
he's strong.
Yeah, he's stronger than a normal person.
Yeah,
stronger than a human.
Paul and Victor see the monster on the roof with Elizabeth. Paul runs toward the village while Victor goes up after the monster. Victor shoots the monster, and it comes after him. He then throws an oil lamp on it, setting the monster on fire. It then falls through the window and into the acid pit, leaving no trace or evidence that it ever really existed. We then flash to the present, where Dr. Frankenstein is in prison talking to the priest. Paul and Elizabeth comes to visit. Paul refuses to support Victor's story. Monster? What monster?
Yeah, there's no evidence of that. Yeah,
and
he's on death row for killing
Justine the maid. They found the body somewhere, and he couldn't explain it without the monster there.
Yeah. No, really, there was a creature, and
And then we end with Victor being led up the hill to the guillotine, which is a French device, and this all took place in Germany, so something doesn't add up there.
Yeah.
Well, the version we watched was color, but very low quality color. It's better than a VHS tape, but not great. It seemed like the perfect quality for a late-night 1980s TV movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not real sharp. It needs restoring.
Yeah, it could. A remastering.
Yeah. Christopher Lee looks nothing at all like Boris Karloff's monster. He's tall, gaunt, and much more like a man assembled from parts.
Mm-hmm.
He's fast, dangerous, and only mildly pitiful.
And one thing I noticed, too, when he's animated, when they're out of the room, and then they come back, the bandages are all there. He took the bandages off and put on clothes. So he was functional enough at some level to know
dressed.
To take the bandages off and get dressed. Because then when he's out in the woods with the blind man and everything, he's wearing a coat and overcoat and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the original movie,
I think he was a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more functional than the original Universal Frankenstein.
A confused man who woke up from an operation.
Very confused, yeah.
Of course, Frankenstein in the original in 1931, you feel a little bit of pity or empathy for him.
You don't for this guy.
He wants to make friends. He's being abused by everyone. They scream and run away from him, and he just wants to be loved.
Yeah.
This one, he's just kind of wandering the rampaging.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to pity there.
Yeah, no sympathy really. Yeah.
Cushing gives off an evil air, even as he obsesses over his work.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he's willing to kill to advance. Well, he does kill to advance experiments, or even just cover things up.
Yeah, it's a ruthless Frankenstein.
In most of the Universal Frankenstein movies, the doctor is working on things that man was not meant to know, but they still usually had their hearts and motivations in the right places. They want to advance science. They want to advance medicine. They want to bring the dead back to life. These aren't bad things.
Just a megalomaniac.
Arrogant, obsessive, and murderous. Yeah, he's our first evil Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah. Yeah.
You always have to wonder how these experiments would have turned out if they had used a healthy brain.
Yeah, especially this one. Yeah.
Both here and in the original.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why do these scientists always associate with these do-gooder goobers who say there are some things that man was not meant to know? Hello, they're scientists.
Yeah. What else did we see?
How about a hole in the ground?
We saw a hole in the ground.
We did.
Yeah.
Got one out in our backyard if you dig far enough.
2019, an Irish movie.
New.
Yeah.
Directed by Lee Cronin, written by Lee Cronin and Stephen Shields, stars Shayna Kerslake, and I'll bet there's an Irish Shana Kerslake or something.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Sienna Kerslake.
So, pardon our mispronunciations.
James Quinn Markey and Katie Outnan. 1 hour, 30 minutes. And thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up for me.
I'm very middle of the road on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I liked some of it. I did not like others.
I give it a clear thumbs up.
Okay.
I
I'm going to go 5 out of 10.
Okay.
You're going to go
7 out of 10. 7.5. 7.5.
Sarah and Chris are moving to a land where everything is brown.
I noticed that too. Yes.
Even the green stuff is brown here.
I have that very note. Even the green is kind of brown. It's like the brown filter is on. Yeah.
I'll talk more filters later.
But even, everything, they'll show interior shots and it's all wood and wood grains and they're wearing brown clothes and all the set pieces are brown and
it's a movie about depression.
Besides having a brown filter on the green and the blue, and the sky is kind of brownish. Yeah.
Black and white film? No, just color, but they're all brown.
Yeah.
The upside-down camera shows us a lingering shot of the land and road. Credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
They almost hit someone on the road. Sarah gets out to investigate and finds a muttering, black-lip, witchy old woman. There's always one. And at least they didn't hit her, so they drive on. We then learn that Chris is terrified of spiders. Chris is angry because his father didn't move out into the middle of nowhere with the two of them. He runs off into the woods and Sarah follows, but she can't find him. She walks up to the edge of a huge hole in the ground.
Yes.
And it looks like a giant crater completely surrounded by miles and miles of trees.
Mm-hmm. It's a big one.
It's a big hole, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris comes back to her. They have some friends over that night, and they mention Mrs. Brady. The locals call her Walkie-Talkie, a crazy old lady who lives near here.
She was the one on the street.
In the road, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They explain that her son was killed in a mysterious incident many years ago. That night, she hears a noise and finds the back door open, and Chris is gone. Sarah goes out into the woods, but can't find him. She calls the emergency number, but Chris returns just as she starts talking to the guy on the phone.
And he denies having been out.
Yeah, he wasn't out.
No,
we know
I was
he
here. I was here, Mommy. Yeah, okay.
Chris starts popping up behind her and otherwise doing creepy things.
And you kind of wonder, is this all in her head at this point?
You kind of wonder that a lot through the movie.
You wonder that a lot through the movie. Kind of a paranoia building. Like something's not quite right, but it could just be in her head. She's on medication too.
Is this a psychological drama or is this a horror movie?
Yeah, you don't know for sure. And the doctor has put her on some kind of strong medication for her mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a medication side effect that's causing hallucinations too.
Is she or isn't she?
Isn't she?
They run into Mrs. Brady again in the middle of the road. She takes one look at Chris and yells, "He's not your son!" and bashes her head into the car window. Bam! The next day, Sarah goes back to see how the old lady was doing after hurting herself, but finds her dead with her head buried in the ground. Ostrich-like, just her head.
Did she have help, or did she do that herself, is the question.
It's not an impossibility that she could have done that herself. Mm-hmm. She was clearly crazy.
And that's what her husband thinks, that she was crazy and, a combination of craziness and dementia.
Yeah,
and
some of that too.
And her husband just accepts that, she did that to herself. And
we learn that Sarah has a head wound that still bleeds occasionally. The implication is that she was beaten by her husband, an abusive relationship, and she was moving to the country to get away from him.
Yeah.
Of course, Chris doesn't understand that, but she does.
Yeah.
Sarah, implication, this is never spelled out to be sure.
Yeah, hinted at.
Sarah asks a friend, "Do you ever look at your kids and don't recognize them?" I think a lot of parents say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, perfectly, not horror. she just, having some mental issues?
We'll see.
Mm.
Sarah goes to the old woman's funeral and wake. She talks to her husband, who tells her about their lost son, James. Mrs. Brady started saying that James wasn't really her son when he turned around 8. She was convinced that James wasn't her son, and that seeing Chris reminded her of that. She then ran over James with her car, and now everyone says it was a tragic accident. Yeah, we get the impression here it was not an accident.
Yeah.
Sometime later, Sarah is out jogging through the woods at night with her headphones on.
Why? We don't know.
And finds one of Chris's toys right next to the hole in the ground. She then sees or imagines at the bottom of the hole swallowing the nearby dirt like a big hungry mouth. You can see it.
It's getting bigger.
Chris swears that he hasn't been in the woods, but she found the toy. And then he pushes the heavy kitchen table across the room, Superman style.
Yeah, there's that transitional moment when you realize, oh, he's not really the little boy anymore.
Or she's imagining it.
Well,
she's maybe in her mind she's exaggerating the table speed.
Well,
at this point we don't know.
Oh, that's right. That was the first time.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Yeah. Okay.
She watches through the crack under the door as Chris stalks, catches, and eats a big spider with his stretchy claw shapeshifter hands.
But again,
there's a development.
But again, that seems very hallucinatory.
It does.
Yeah.
Real Chris was terrified of spiders, but apparently not anymore. She's now clearly afraid of him. They go see the doctor the next day, and Sarah tells the doctor that Chris isn't himself.
But he checks out completely normal, healthy little boy.
The doctor asks Sarah more questions about herself than about Chris, as if he thinks there might be something wrong with Sarah. She then sets up a hidden camera in Chris's room.
The doctor would tend to think that.
What she was saying, that would be her first thing, is there's something wrong with her.
He's looked at the kid and like, no, it's a kid.
Normal kid.
Yeah.
She has this big scene where Chris gets all creepy in the school talent contest. But
that was very hallucinatory.
Yeah, from our point of view, it's clear that she's hallucinating the whole thing because no one else sees anything.
Yeah, it's just a stage play. The kids doing a stage thing. And
the whole group, the whole choir is up there.
It zooms in on her like a tunnel kind of thing, and Chris is just talking by himself to her. And that's clearly a hallucination. Yeah. So you think even more so that
makes it very clear
she's nuts. Yeah.
It then becomes very obvious that Sarah is hallucinating things. Then she looks at the hidden camera footage from the wall and goes to see Mr. Brady.
Did we mention the hidden camera? She puts a hidden camera in the kids' room.
Yeah. He says, the mirror always shows the truth about children. She shows him the camera. He says he doesn't see anything and throws the camera down on the floor. Still, he won't say that she's wrong or that she's crazy.
And
we don't know what he saw.
We don't get to see what was on the camera, and his facial expression as he's watching is kind of conflicted, and you can't really tell.
There could be a horrible monster on that camera, or it could be a normal kid. We don't. And it could
just be him being troubled by this is just a normal kid, and she's being really weird, like my wife was, kind of moment. But we don't know. Again, there's a lot of uncertainty.
The scene should explain everything to us, but the way it's filmed, we really still don't know.
Yeah.
Sarah throws away the medication that the doctor gave her. More and more, Chris starts acting afraid of her. We know she's off her meds, so who's the real monster here? And that's the theme of the whole movie for the most part.
Until
she puts drugs in Chris's dinner, and then she tells Chris, "You're not my son." He then throws her across the room and beats the crap out of her severely. Again, Superman style.
And that's the moment we realize, he's really, that's
it's pretty obvious.
I forgot about the first table push, which could have been either way, but this way is definitively,
You could still argue this one even.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, not at that point.
She wakes up and finds him digging a hole for her. He buries her head face down in the dirt, just like the old lady. He then passes out from the drugs she gave him. Sarah, not being as dead as the old woman was, wakes up and pulls her head out of the dirt. Pull your head out of the sand, literally.
Yeah.
She drags him back to the house and ties him up. He roars and growls and fights back, but she's way bigger than he is. He then lies on the floor and screams until you expect thing-like tentacles to pop out. Did you get that from that scene? He's just laying. The sounds and the camera angle are exactly like the Thing
Very
movie.
reminiscent of that, yeah.
But that doesn't happen. Sarah finally goes back to the hole in the ground. She goes down into the hole and lets it swallow her up. Seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But she's looking for the real Chris.
Yeah, of course she wakes up in a cave. She crawls around in the claustrophobic tunnels for a bit, and then it widens into an area where she can stand up. She finds an old skull, probably James.
Could be.
Then she finds Chris, intact mostly.
Yeah.
Then she finds the shape-changing monsters, and there's a bunch of them down there.
Yeah, they're kind of blobby things, pod kind of things.
Gray alien kind of things.
Yeah.
One of the monsters now looks like her.
Yeah, that was neat.
She knocks it out.
Because it comes after her.
They're chasing through the tunnel.
She's dragging Chris and being chased, and you don't really see the creature clearly for a while, and it gradually becomes her. And yeah, it was her copy that was meant to, and apparently anybody that goes into the hole or falls in the hole can be replaced by one of these shape-shifting things. And she kills it.
She knocks it out and pulls Chris from the hole. She runs through the woods carrying Chris, and they rest for a moment. Chris wakes up, and they hurry home. Sarah has to go inside the house where fake Chris was locked in the basement for her car keys. And she leaves Chris outside by the car. They were separated.
Yeah, that seems kind of... And then that's questionable.
She hears not Chris in the basement sounding pitiful, so she sets the house on fire. They drive away, covered in dirt, but alive. Chris looks up and smiles at her.
And you're wondering, is this still the real Chris?
Who's who here?
Did he get replaced again?
We then flash forward to a time when everything is good. It's still kind of brown, though.
Yeah.
And both Chris and Sarah are
happy.
Did
you notice it was less brown?
It was, okay.
Yeah.
She takes a picture of Chris out the window, and he's fine. The camera draws back, and we see dozens of mirrors in the room. They both really are okay.
Yeah.
We see her in the mirror.
It was a paranoid kind of happy ending. Yeah.
The film is going for a mood of depression and sadness, but the brown filter over literally everything was too much.
I didn't think it was too much.
Maybe I've been paying too much attention to filters over the years, but too many films rely on these things and not enough on acting and story. People raved over, what movie am I going to complain about? Wonder Woman. People rave over Wonder Woman, but I could never get past the fact that the movie was entirely gray. Most depressing movie ever. As the movie progresses, it becomes more and more obvious that Sarah is going crazy. There are several scenes where she sees Chris do something weird, like on stage in front of the crowd, and no one else sees anything wrong. It's hard to argue that anything is real when the mental issues are this obvious. There seems to be a big trend in modern horror to frame stories in such a way that you don't know if there's something happening or if someone is mentally ill.
Yeah, that is a tendency.
This is fine if done well, but I thought it was a little clunky here, because clearly Sarah is having hallucinations between the abuse, the doctor's drugs, and whatever else is going on. But there's also something wrong with Chris.
So it was a combination in this movie.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
The real question here is how much is real and how much is imagined, and it's never completely clear. There are shape-shifting doppelgangers in the hole, and they did clone Chris, and briefly Sarah too, but we don't really know how much is real and how much isn't.
Yeah. All in all, thumbs up, though. I liked it. Yeah.
How about other movies?
Something dark?
Something dark.
Something between the darkness.
Between the darkness.
Or Come Said the Night.
Yeah, I guess that's a European title. Come Said the Night. But this one, in the United States, it will be called Between the Darkness. And I say will be called because it's not actually out yet. This is a pre-release.
Very soon, yeah.
By the time you see this, it'll be almost available. The show shows on... Our show comes out on Saturday morning, and theirs is coming out on Tuesday, so soon.
Yeah.
Directed by Andreas Rovira.
I believe.
I don't know.
Okay.
Stars Danielle Harris, Lou Temple, Tate Birchmore, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And this will be available on all the various streaming services in a week or so. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up.
I thought thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number-wise, I would go...
I was pleasantly surprised.
6 out of 10?
I'd give it a solid 8.
Fate of 10?
8. I'd give it a... Well, I would debate, 7.5, 8. No, I think 8.
Okay. I don't think I was really the target demographic for this movie, but I did like it.
I was?
You're more teenage girl than I am. I don't know.
I'm not a teenage girl either.
A girl, Sprout, wakes up with a bad dream. Credits roll. Very simple.
Mm-hmm.
The film begins, and I'm going to avoid spoilers because this movie hadn't even... I know you haven't. I know nobody out there has seen it yet, so spoiler limited here.
Yeah, let's limit them. Spoilers.
The film begins as the family... I'll talk about the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
The film begins as the family is in the car, driving to their home out in the woods. Initially, I thought they were moving to a new home out in the woods, but I don't get that impression later on. It's like they were just on their way home from somewhere.
Yeah, it's more of a... Yeah.
Yeah.
A retreat, not a retreat. What's he call it? Yeah,
it's a retreat.
Yeah.
They all sit down to dinner and pray to Hippocrates.
And that's when you start to realize,
Ooh, what?
Hippocrates, yeah, he worships the old gods and talks about the old gods, the Roman, well, not just the Roman and Greek ones, but some of the,
yeah, mostly Roman and Greek.
But
it's 1 year today since one of the daughters, Magda, died.
Mm-hmm.
We get scenes of the father and 2 remaining daughters playing together as they commemorate the anniversary.
So it's kind of somber, and they're kind of fun, too. They release a balloon.
And we're about 20 minutes into it when I figured out that they don't have 2 daughters. One of them is a son.
Yeah, there was that. Yeah, took me a while, too. Yeah.
The father, or maybe all of them, seem inordinately obsessed with Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the son's name is Perseus. Percy for short.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I finally figured out that, hey, that's a boy. Finally, the night is over and Sprout heads to bed. She has the nightmare again and sees her dead sister coming for her, but wakes up before anything bad happens. Was there someone in the room? The younger brother, Percy, seems to be traumatized. He doesn't talk, he wears plastic films or gloves continually, and he has really girlish long hair.
And these aren't spoilers so far. These are just stuff at the beginning. Yeah.
The park ranger and her son come for a visit. Sprout gets a glimpse of what appears to be a monster in the woods, and she calls it a gorgon. Greek mythology.
And Dad tells her that, no, the gorgons are killed. Medusa was the last one, and she got killed.
And they've got pictures in books and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The father seems to be an aging hippie, warning that the outside world is chaos. He prays to strange gods and kind of expects answers from them.
Yeah.
Of course, you pray to God, you always expect an answer. I mean, even if they don't speak to you.
Lots of prayers and meditation, and suggests the girl spend an hour in silence contemplating, a certain god or something,
He says that his patron god is Hippocrates, and that Sprout will eventually find her own patron god when she's ready. She asks about Magda, and he explains that Magda was confused about the gods, and so was I at this point.
That's the sister.
Yeah,
the dead sister.
The dead sister.
Mm-hmm.
Sprout continues to have night terrors every time she goes to sleep. At one point, she and Percy go monster hunting the next day and find a bunch of dead animals. Again, no spoilers. Sprout falls down and has some kind of seizure. She claims the gorgon froze her like Medusa, and her father warns her not to go back into those woods. The father now says he believes Sprout about the gorgon, and then he goes outside to run the woods naked in the dark.
And things get strange from that point.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Things start getting really weird from here, my notes say.
Yeah.
That's as far as we're going to go.
Yeah, if we go further, we're going to get into spoiler territory. But it is, I thought it was interesting and engrossing trying to figure out what's going on with this family.
The father is weird, but you don't get the impression that he's evil or a monster or anything like that.
No,
the little brother is traumatized, but there's nothing wrong with him either, really.
Yeah, they've got kind of a strange family dynamic, but it seems to be working, and they all
no mother, dead
happy.
Daughter. Yeah. Families get a little strange in a situation like that.
But they all seem to be fairly happy.
Yeah.
But, like we said, things get strange.
Good line of the movie, there are no gods, only monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So things don't stay so cheerful.
Yeah.
The scenes of the thing creeping around outside Sprout's bed are genuinely well done.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't experienced night terrors at least once? When you know there's something standing behind you and you can't wake up and you can't turn and you know it's there and it's going to get you, and then you wake up and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
The coming-of-age part of the film obviously revolves around Sprout hitting puberty, and she starts getting interested in Max, the park ranger's son, and dressing in a more adult style. Growing up is often about setting aside childish things, and we definitely see that here, especially toward the end. Parents are rarely what we think growing up, and as we see here, sometimes they're not even close.
So there is, there's that transition of childish thinking to adult thinking, and the child's perception of a parent versus a more adult perception of a parent. And, childhood versus adulthood, as she is touching on puberty. And
Still, does anybody in the modern age, even crazy people, really believe in the Greek gods and monsters anymore? Do people pray to Hippocrates and Jupiter?
Actually, yes. Yes, there are still, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some.
This belief is such an integral part of the movie, but it seems like a bit much of a stretch, I thought, to accept this. And you're saying it's not that unusual.
Well, it's unusual, but yeah.
People do it?
I thought it was believable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The acting is impressive all around. Lou Temple changes significantly from what you see initially until the conclusion of the movie, and it all seems a more or less natural progression. Nicole Maria Sherman as Sprout is fascinating to watch as she finally starts to realize that her world makes no sense.
It's unusual and her brother too. It's unusual to find child actors who are that talented and
the actor who played Percy
close to their own ages.
The actor who played Percy was fine in the role, but I couldn't help thinking that I was watching the annoying little girl from Hereditary several times.
There were times where he reminded me of her. Yeah,
there's a big resemblance.
Definite, in action and looks, from certain angles, and definite. Yeah.
Overall, I liked it. I'm probably not the demographic for a teenage girl's coming-of-age story, but once the strangeness began, I was thoroughly hooked.
I was hooked. I thought it was fascinating and so pleasantly surprised, too, because you go into some movies and they're low budget and independent and they're not always.
They're so artsy-fartsy, abstract, and psychedelic.
And
this was not like that. This was a straightforward movie.
Yeah, it was really well done. There's a story. There's great actors and good writing. And,
it's really well done.
Yeah.
Dark Coast will release the film onto digital streaming platforms August 20th on Amazon, iTunes, In Demand, DirecTV, Vudu, Fandango, Vimeo On Demand, AT&T, Google Play, and Sling. Dish.
So pretty much anywhere that streams movies.
That's not Netflix, but it sounds like it's about everybody else.
A wide release, yeah. So we definitely, I especially recommend checking that out. Yeah.
If it sounds like something you'd like, you probably will.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we had an international film last.
One last movie.
Yeah, we had this was a long week because we had 5 full-length movies instead of a short. Yeah.
Lots of snacks. Pop Rocks and Twizzlers.
Climax from 2018. Directed by Gaspar Noé. Written by same guy. Stars Sofia Boutella, Romain Guillermic, and Sohaila Yacoub.
And they're seldom...
Hour and 37 minutes.
Seldom been a movie where I was... Well, it's happened before, but I was so pleasantly surprised by this because we had picked it out ahead of time. We saw the preview, and preview looked good. And then I was reading the trivia about it. And
trivia turned me off like no other movie ever.
The trivia, one of the things, it was shot with a 5-page script is all for a movie length, and they just kind of improvised.
What was the other movie we saw where they improvised so much of it and we hated it? Was it Possession?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that was, yeah.
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 Improvised movies generally don't come out well.
And I said, uh-oh.
Then they showed some of the film's influences, and I said, uh-oh.
Yeah. One of the influences was Possession.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So we fully went into this expecting...
I was expecting
dread. A load of crap. Yeah.
And I was so pleasantly surprised.
So was I.
Yeah.
Thumbs up for me. I'm going to give it a very good 8.
Me too.
Maybe a 9. I like it way more than I thought I would.
Approaching 9, yeah. Takes place in 1996.
Yeah, so no cell phones. That's the only thing that really matters. No computers, no cell phones.
Yeah.
We see a half-dressed girl walking through the snow. She falls down and screams hysterically, rolling around in the snow. She leaves a trail of blood behind her as she crawls on. Then she stops, frozen or bled to death. We don't know. credits roll.
Mm-hmm.
Very weird and far too detailed credits.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great wall of text kind of credits.
And then...
Actually, these are the end credits, showing credits now for artsy-fartsy reasons.
And then they have the...
And my eyes are rolling at this point.
Beginning credits in the middle and the title at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of... It was,
why?
It was weird.
For artsy-fartsy reasons.
Artsy-fartsy, yeah.
We then cut to a video. We see a TV in the middle of our screen. Over on the side, there's videotapes. On this side, there's books.
Mm-hmm.
And next to the TV, we see a pile of videotapes, which include
Possession.
Suspiria, Possession, Schizophrenia, Harry Carey, and some others. And if you've been watching us for a while, you know our opinion of both Suspiria and Possession.
Yeah, so...
These are not the influences we were looking forward to seeing.
No.
Those are my two worst movies that we have
Mm-hmm.
reviewed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So at this point, just from seeing that, I was expecting this to really be bad.
And it wasn't. It was really good. Yeah.
But then we start out with a collection of young people being interviewed about dancing.
Yeah, just short questions, answers.
What would you do? How far would you go?
Yeah.
What would you do if you couldn't dance?
Why do you dance?
And typical
all
interview
kinds of
questions like that.
Mm-hmm.
They get asked about drugs, and most of them said they don't do drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they're professional dancers. You can't be high all the time and do that. It's bad for your body.
Yeah.
After the video interviews are over, the actual credits roll.
Yeah.
We cut to a dance studio then with many people dancing. These are clearly the same people we just saw in the video interviews, and they're actually very good dancers. It's a very good dance.
Opening dance scene was amazing. Yeah.
We see them all do their thing, and it's a very entertaining scene.
Super athletic and super talented, and it was good.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Afterwards, there's a little party where they celebrate, and they all congratulate each other on a great dance.
Yeah,
they've been rehearsing
for a show. This is a show they're putting together, and rehearsal's done, and now there's a party to blow off some steam and have some fun.
Yeah.
They're just casual music is playing now, and they're casual. Even the casual dancing just for fun is all kinds of cool stuff to watch, too. And,
there is a child there, but he's specifically not allowed to drink the sangria. Most everyone else has some, and it's a fairly tame party.
Yeah, what was the woman's role? She was the dance director, the woman who made the sangria.
I don't think she was a dancer. She owned the building.
She wasn't a dancer.
Some sort of administration.
Some administrator of the group. Yeah, and it's her kid that she has there.
I got the kind of feeling that maybe they lived upstairs.
No, I don't think so.
They put the child to sleep up there.
I think that was just a building they were using.
Okay.
Though. I don't think they really lived there.
Yeah. One of the girls says this is not a good place for a kid. But everything looks pretty wholesome for the most part as far as I could tell.
Mm-hmm.
Then the same girl asks at the same line, "You ever have an abortion?" Apparently she has children on the mind for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And her friend answers, "It's good to have the choice."
Mm-hmm.
It sounded kind of political there, didn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
It's an odd conversation, but it does foreshadow things to come. A little later, someone mentions that the first girl is pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the little boy Tito goes upstairs to be put to bed. One dancer mentions that this is supposedly a safe place where it's okay to take drugs. And there is one girl there snorting coke, and some of the dancers judge her negatively.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are judging each other for one thing or another.
Yeah, it's really
dancers.
It's really interesting. It breaks apart into little groups, couples, and small groups having conversations. And there's not so much story, but you kind of get to know these people as it goes from group to group.
There are several segments of the movie. The initial opening scene with the dead girl outside.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a scene where they interview the people on TV. There's the big dance scene. They break into little segments of pairs or trios and talk.
Yeah.
Then there is the big scene, and then there's a scene that kind of wraps things up at the end. Mm-hmm. So that's really all the scenes there are to this. Yeah. It's a simple movie.
And I don't think, for such a simple story and such a little story, it was so entertaining.
Well, some of this, like this next segment we're about to talk to, felt kind of like padding to me. We spend about 15 minutes watching various small groups talk about each other and their relationships. There's two guys talking and the two girls talking, and they pair up. Yeah. You get to know the characters through this.
And romantic interest, who's romantically interested, and there's some gay characters and bi characters further complicating things.
Dancers.
Yeah, micro dramas.
And I started getting a little bored with this section.
Oh, I thought most of them were very interesting.
Okay.
Especially that one guy and his giggle.
Yeah.
Two guys talking about sex and how big they both. Oh, the one guy was talking about how big he is, and and just making the crudest jokes, and very funny. And he had the most infectious giggle.
Again, this whole movie had a 5-page script, and most of it was improvised. And I suspect this is mostly improvised here, and they did well with it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
The little boy's mother said the best thing she ever did was make that sangria. The party's going well.
Yeah.
Then we switch to an overhead view of them dancing, mostly one-on-one, one at a time in a circle for about 10 minutes or so.
And it seems to get
they
more
all have different
frenzied.
styles, and they get a little more carried away.
Yeah, the dancing seems to take on more of a frenzied tone at that point. Yeah.
And then more credits roll.
Yeah.
I think they're messing with us by this point.
Yeah.
We get a close-up of the sangria now as the party starts to wind down.
And then you start to wonder, something's not right with that sangria.
Several of the dancers mention that they're feeling funny.
And they start acting funny. And
something's kicking in,
stumbling
one
around
guy
a
says.
little more. Yeah, something's not right. Yeah.
And then one girl just stops dancing and pees in the middle of the dance floor.
Yeah.
That ain't normal.
Not normal.
Okay, the only character whose name I caught was Selva, and that would be Sofia Boutella's character. And she asked the Sangria woman, "What have you done?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sangria woman doesn't understand. She hasn't done anything, she says.
But
everyone is
clearly
acting.
something was in the sangria.
Yeah, everyone is acting really strange now and hardly dancing at all.
Mm-hmm.
They all realize the sangria's been spiked with LSD. Omar said he didn't drink any, so they all blame Omar and lock him outside in the snowstorm.
Yeah, it's funny.
We never see Omar again.
Yeah, they turn on him and lock it, and it's dead of winter, so we assume that Omar is frozen out there.
Well, he's sober. He walked somewhere.
He's
the only sober.
But he wasn't wearing a coat or anything. So
he walked fast.
Yeah, it depends on how far things are.
We don't know whatever happened with Omar.
Yeah, we never see him again.
The little boy Tito comes downstairs, takes a big drink of sangria, and his mother then locks him in the electrical closet for safety.
Because she's freaking out too, and
she's on it. Yeah, she's got it.
Yeah, everybody who's had it is freaked out to various degrees. Some are handling it okay, and some are not. And I thought that was interesting too.
Okay is relative.
Yeah. I mean, clearly drugged, but happy about it. And not insane about it. And some are just insane. And
The pregnant girl didn't drink anything either, but she's sick too because pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
She gets kicked in the gut when someone finds out she didn't drink anything.
Because they think that she spiked the sangria.
Mm-hmm. Another girl then sets herself on fire. Between the sick girl, the screaming child, and the burning girl, there's now a lot of screaming going on now.
But it's pretty minor too. It's just the back of her head.
Well, the burning part, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nobody sober enough to help anyone else. They all join together and chant for the sober pregnant girl to cut herself up with a knife, which she does.
Yeah.
Because high-strung.
Yeah.
Selva then freaks out all by herself in a scene very reminiscent of that one in Possession, only with a lot more screaming.
A little bit, yeah.
I think it was very much based on that scene.
Yeah,
I mean, we know that was an influential movie for this, and I think that was really the best part of this Possession, I thought.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that
and
subway
they kind of duplicated the same scene here.
Yeah.
She eventually comes upon the little boy behind the locked door who is now having his own drug-fueled hallucinations and is both seeing things and screaming, and he's like 6. It's a rough night for the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
The power
goes
out and someone yells, "Oh shit, Tito's been fried."
Tito's in the electrical room and the power goes out. Yeah, what's he done in there?
Of course, the mother has lost and the screaming inside the electrical room stops.
Yeah.
The mother has lost the key to the electrical room, so no one can open the door and check on him.
And it's a heavy metal barricaded.
He very well may have fried himself.
Yeah.
As things continue, the lighting gets more and more colorful, and things take on a funhouse maze-like quality.
Yeah, there's kind of emergency lighting kicks in, and it's still lit, but dimmer. And
the whole room is in like a big square. The whole building is like a big square hallway. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just seem to be going around in loops.
Around the central
revisiting
room.
Certain groups.
Yeah,
So a lot of it is just a big long
individual
walk.
Rooms off the hallway. Yeah.
Funhouse.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Things start quieting down as people pair off and have rough sex or just lay there twitching or passed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The next morning, the police show up and find things in a mess. We see that Tito's mother is dead from a guilt suicide. The pregnant girl walked out into the snow and froze to death.
She was the one in the opening credits.
The brother and sister learn the joys of incest. And lastly, we find out who it was that spiked the punch.
That was funny, though. And the brother's like, nothing happened. And the sister's like, what do you mean? What? Because I don't think she remembers it. And he's like, nothing happened. Yes, we're laying here naked together. Nothing happened.
Little Tito is laying in the electrical room, and we still don't know if he's dead or sleeping it off. We don't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
Lastly, the title of the movie shows up.
Yeah.
The beginning.
The climax. The climax at the climax.
Yeah.
Climax is... It's not the climax, it's just Climax is the title.
It's the end, yeah.
But yeah.
The end credits is the opening credits, really.
Yeah, it was confusing.
The film had a 5-page script, and the actors were told to improvise. Apart from the first big dance scene, everything else was improvised and shot in chronological order.
Oh, and you didn't mention, or maybe you're gonna, the second half of the movie, 142-minute continuous shot.
Mm-hmm.
There was no editing. It was just one continuous, and following, not the same person, but going all around the hallway.
Yeah, it switched main characters for a while.
Switched around, but yeah, one continuous 42-minute shot. That was impressive.
Yeah. Actually, the second half of the movie is almost entirely one long, unbroken...
Listen, I mean, there's notes, saying the same thing that I just said.
The main moral of the story, if you want to learn something from this story, is if your mother tells you to go to bed, stay there and don't come back to the party.
Yeah, don't drink the sangria if she tells you not to. Yeah.
For the first hour, I was starting to doubt this would venture into horror territory, but it definitely did.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a different kind of horror, but it's definitely in the realm.
And a bit of a whodunit, too.
There was little to no real plot here. Yeah, the whole time I was like, all these people are high as anything. Who put the LSD in?
Mm-hmm.
We find out and it makes sense.
We do find out, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is no plot here, no real plot here, but the character interactions create a story for most of the characters. It's not going to be for everyone, but I was surprisingly mesmerized by the whole thing.
Me too.
Way better than I expected.
Yes. That's one I'd watch again.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see a second time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that is our show.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in at Horror Guys during the week for updates, website things, and reviews. Website things.
Website things. That's vague. Things, stuff and things.
Oh, well, to comment upon the podcast or contact us. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, like and share. If you're listening to the podcast, stop on over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. We'd love to see it. We'd also love to hear from your emails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get ready for next week, because we'll be watching the Universal Studio flick, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943.
But Frankenstein was killed and destroyed at the end of the last movie. How can they have more Frankenstein?
Surprise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is our first Versus movie.
Mm-hmm.
The drive-in classic is Dracula from 1958. This is the Hammer Dracula. Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee's first Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And the newer movie Event Horizon from 1997.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard that there's going to be an Event Horizon TV series coming up, so I wanted to go back and see that one again.
Yep. Horror, science fiction.
And I'll tell you right now, the first time I saw Event Horizon, I thought it was the worst sci-fi movie I had ever seen.
I liked
it
a lot.
For 13 years, I hated Event Horizon.
And now you've seen it again?
From a horror point of view, my mind may have changed.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in next week and find out.
Mm-hmm.
And our international feature next time will be Inside from 2007. Give those a watch this week and see if your opinion matches ours.
Yeah.
I'm Brian.
I'm Kevin.
We're the Horror Guys, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Ooh, Pop Rocks.
Mm-hmm. Yum.